Is that sufficient? Excuse me, is that sufficient time to review and accept the minutes for?
I would make a motion they be accepted as drafted.
Second.
Vote to approve? The vote moves. Agenda item 3, the chair's report. There is none. Agenda item 4, the code enforcement officer's report. What's up?
No new news on Whole Oceans. Amoresco's here tonight. That was the other thing we discussed last month. And then the third thing we discussed was Dave Mylan's project at Maine Marine. And I haven't gone up to look, but they're supposed to be close to getting ready to pouring the slab for that building. But the building is going to be delayed getting here, so he's not going to be able to have it up in time to store boats this year. So he's obviously very disappointed, but it's like everything. Everything's delayed in every industry. So. And Mike Hawes bought a lot up in the industrial park, and he plans on putting in an office building and a landscaping type stone, gravel, whatever. Whether he's going to sell to the public or it's just going to be for his own company, I don't know. Obviously that will have to come to you guys before anything's built and whatnot. But I think that's everything, unless you have any questions.
Is that the same one that's on Verona Island?
Well, he sold that.
Hardscrabble.
Hardscrabble runs it. What's his name? Jesse's the nephew, and is it Mike?
Yes.
So they bought it.
Yeah, Mike used to own it, but he sold all that to them. He doesn't do any of that right now.
Any communication at all from Whole Oceans?
Nothing. Just what I told you last month, that they've had a huge change in leadership.
It would be nice to know who the new leaders are.
I don't even know if there is a new leader yet.
Check the website for further information. That's probably the best thing to do, I guess. Anything else? No. Seeing nothing else. Agenda item 5, the limited public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on matters related to land use or planning in the town of Bucksport. That's you guys. Anything from the public? Seeing none. Item 6, unfinished business. None. 7, new business. Item A, application for land use permit, proposed 20-acre, 5-megawatt solar project located off River Road, map 1, lot 4, applicant Amoresco, engineering by TRC Company.
So, I'm sure they have a whole presentation. I'll just quickly state we already know all the players because we've met with them all before. This new site is zoned industrial, so there's no need for contract zoning or anything like that. This is a permissible use. I've reviewed the application and I don't see anything lacking that's required. They're going to be reusing the same interconnect as before, I believe. The only question was which route they were going to take to get there. And I've got the location here on the map, and it's up there. This is the old. This is the landfill down here. The black that you see is the cover for part of the landfill. But there, up above that, there's a power line in this stretch through here, and then the main power line going down through here. So they're up in this area here.
Where's the gas line from Bangor?
The gas line comes down, uh, it comes down the power line, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
down this big one here.
Okay.
This is it.
And I mean, everybody's fairly familiar with that area. There's no neighbors up there to speak of. Seeing as how the last time these folks came to us, we couldn't beg the public or the neighbors to come in. I didn't see any point in having another public meeting, a public forum. So if you guys want one, obviously you can request that we do that, but that's up to you.
But the situation is further away from the neighbors
Correct.
that didn't show up last time.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why I didn't see the need. I mean, I did send out abutter notifications, everything as required.
How much further away is it than the last proposed site?
A lot.
What are we talking?
The houses were down here,
Yep,
Oh,
and the site was here.
yep.
oh,
Now the site's way up here.
So completely on the other side of the power line.
Yes.
right.
Okay.
Not even visible.
And you don't have the wetlands anymore, and everything about it really is better. But,
Nice.
so with that, I'll turn it over to them to present whatever they got.
Folks are gonna need to look at our board here. I'll put it out.
If you could,
Which
please
which
just
map was it?
state your name
Yeah, I will.
for the record.
I've got that drawing if you want me to pull that up.
Give the exhibit number. Yeah, I'm Mark Christopher, and I'm a project manager with TRC Engineers. We also have several members of the Amoresco team here as well, John Mancini and Rob Jackson, legal counsel Brian Rayback, and our civil engineer Tom Daniels, who designed the grading plan and the stormwater management plan. So, and we appreciate you having us back tonight. We did have a little hiccup with the last project, unfortunately, and the Amoresco folks were diligent at finding this other piece of property and working with Pixel to do a purchase and sale agreement, and then eventually purchase the property. So as much as I really thought that last site was a good site, a good use of that particular piece of property, this site is even better. I'm guessing everybody's pretty familiar with the landfill and the log yard and what its use would have been during the production of the mill. So my impression as a person that does land use permitting and such is you've got a piece of property that probably doesn't, being next to a landfill, probably doesn't have a lot of good qualities for developing, let's say, residential. It's certainly zoned industrial, and there could certainly be some industrial use at some point in time, but in terms of the quality of the land, the location, solar seems to be a very good fit for the land and for the vicinity. I think it was mentioned that the site is going to be 20 acres. Obviously, the overall property is about 144, and we're looking at a footprint of development of about 30 to 31 acres. And some of that includes clearing in order to reduce the shading over the panel. So our footprint's about 30 acres. We're shooting for, again, a just under 5 megawatt project. Similar type of composition. You've got an access road that goes into the site for construction access and for operations and maintenance. Around the panels, you have a security fence. Their stormwater management is addressed through grading and swales and erosion controls. We did submit a permit by rule to the DEP, permit by rule application, and that has been issued. I believe we did send a copy of the overall stormwater management calculations to the town as part of our application. So we're pretty well covered in terms of our regulatory situation with DEP. We will need to go to DEP for a site law amendment, because the mill at one point in time they developed a log yard and they had to include that within their site law permit. So we will at some point go to DEP and make an application within the next probably 4 to 6 weeks or so. But in terms of with the town, this is important for us to get through the process, preferably in a positive way, before the end of the year. So hence why we've cobbled together an application as quick as we could and provided hopefully enough information for folks to review and feel good about what they're looking at. Again, the property is, to us, it seems to be a really good site. Much of the area that we're developing was part of the active log yard, and some parts of it to reduce shading is currently forested and will be cleared. We're looking towards construction starting next spring, and typically about an 18-month process from the time you start clearing and general preparation of the soil and the ground, grading, panel installation, and then adding all the details of utilities, all the underground connections between the array panels, final testing and commissioning, and site restoration, and that would put the project functional, operational around February of '23. So seems like a long ways off, but overall time goes by pretty fast, and so it's actually somewhat of an aggressive schedule for the most part. You know, in general, you look at soils, you look at the site, and it seems to be a very good fit. We've got stormwater management in place. We've got a very thorough assessment of grading and how to deal with stormwater, how to deal with runoff from the access road. The project will use the landfill access road coming in off of Route 15. So that driveway, that quarter-mile or so driveway, won't need to be built. It's existing. So that presents a really another good point for the project. We are still working through, or Ameresco is still working through their interconnection line, which would be essentially like a distribution line, like a roadside distribution line that collects power at their transformer and would bring it to CMP's distribution system. So we presented 5 options in our application, and those are being worked through with CMP. I think they're all pretty reasonable options. We would obviously like to get the one that's the easiest and the cheapest, and I guess you could say. And but as it stands now, that's still somewhat nebulous, but we think the options are all reasonable from a planning perspective. The project does not have any wetland impacts. We do have
CMP's,
they're
they're the
CMP's
ones that
jurisdiction.
decide which of the 5 options?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, to a certain degree, they work through it with Ameresco, but they have certain criteria that they want to meet in terms of distance to the substation and such. So it's a bit of a process that the Ameresco folks go through to determine that with CMP. Okay. So as I was mentioning, you know, we have wetlands on the site. We delineated the wetlands. You know, Tom and his folks did a nice job designing, and the Ameresco folks as well, designing the project so there's no wetland impacts, no stream impacts. We've looked at the site again for archaeology and other cultural resources, and there's no impacts there. We've done our consultation and due diligence with Inland Fish and Wildlife, Maine Natural Areas Program, and Maine Historic Preservation Commission. So as you might expect from an old log yard, we're essentially clear on natural and cultural resource issues.
I saw the letter there, though, that you had asked someone from the state to take a look at it. Is that correct?
Yeah,
The
that
State Department of Agriculture, but they referred you to a qualified biologist, I believe. Did you ever have that followed up on?
is that from the MNAP?
This is from the Department of Agriculture.
Right,
Conservation.
that'd be the main natural areas program. We did have our biologists on site, and what they're saying there is that their database doesn't show the presence of any rare plants.
Yeah.
So we did have biologists on sites and on the site doing our wetland delineation, and we don't see any rare plants or rare natural communities on site. So in that sense, yes, we did. Again, last time we were here, we talked a little bit about the amount of traffic and such generated. Once the site is built and its operation and maintenance stage, you're looking at a couple times a month that the site would get mowed. Some maintenance work you expect would be needed for tinkering or evaluating the panels and such. So it's a very low intensive use relative to traffic and such. So we don't see any public safety issues there. We're using an existing road, existing access onto Route 15. So I feel like in that sense it's a good fit with the community relative to safety issues. We do give a very good discussion in here from a first responder in terms of dealing with possible fire issues, and there is certainly opportunities for Amoresco to work with the town fire department on specifics related to how they would react to a fire if there was a fire in the solar project.
Looks like you had a pretty good plan laid out in there for that, with NOx logs and all kinds of access for the
Exactly.
fire department.
Yeah, Tom is a volunteer fire department, in the volunteer fire department in Belgrade, so,
I like the part where it says if it's on fire, just let it go.
you don't let it,
Just let it go.
let it go, and
It's gonna
that's,
get replaced anyway.
that's what, that's the same kind of logic that CMP uses on their substations.
Yeah.
And let it go. So, and I think part of the logic here is what the fire departments really should be looking for is making sure that the fire doesn't escape the array area and end up causing a brush fire outside the project.
I did send this to the department heads,
Right.
and they had no concerns. So.
And just to kind of close up here a little bit is, part of the reason the Amoresco folks, as Penobscot Narrows, are back because, obviously we had a hiccup with the last project, but they feel like this is a really good community for them to develop and operate a solar project. They're very interested and passionate about being part of the community and operating the project for the next 25, 30, 40 years. So I think I got to hand it to them for being diligent and sticking with the town and not just walking away. And I think that shows a lot about their commitment to the town and as well as to their project. So I'll answer as many questions as folks have, and we have the other experts here, probably know more than I do actually, to help answer questions as well.
I have a question. Water quality,
Yes, sir.
the runoff. Do you plan on doing any kind of testing once a year on the groundwater in the area?
No, typically not. It's any of the runoff that comes off, let's say, the access road goes into swales and sort of goes through what you might call a treatment process that detains the stormwater and allows solids or anything to settle out of it. But theoretically, once these things are built, they don't generate any hazardous waste or hazardous materials. So whatever water runs off the system, it's essentially rainwater. It's essentially clean. So what they try to manage for is really more, well, what happens if you got a gravel road and water hits the gravel road and it washes off some of the gravel and such. So that's kind of the concept behind the stormwater plan.
Okay. Any of your projects anywhere require any kind of water quality testing?
I don't know. I don't, at this
I'm
level, at
seeing-
these
I'm
smaller
seeing a head go
projects,
no.
but
No,
I wouldn't.
It's just,
Tommy seeing from Amoresco,
Yeah.
we haven't had any issues with testing groundwater or any testing of runoff.
okay. And it's not been asked before?
It has not, to my
Interesting.
knowledge.
So one thing to keep in mind with this site too is it's going to be subject to site law, have a site law permit. So under that permit, the applicant is required to do a 5-year recertification with an inspection. So that's the department's opportunity to make sure the system is functioning as designed, being maintained, and that issues can be addressed. So they have an inspection and maintenance plan that they have to follow as part of their permit, but then on top of that, every 5 years, DEP gets another crack to make sure that, qualified professionals looking at this and it's functioning as designed.
Okay. All right. I got several more questions. You have color codes. I didn't put any color codes on mine.
It's the color of the sticky notes, so what I had, I guess. So you've got a 144-acre piece of land, and your footprint you're talking about for this project is 30.35 acres.
Correct.
The rest of the acreage, you talk about tree growth, but is it actually in tree growth now, or is it something that you're going to put the rest into tree growth for?
That I don't know from, you're talking tree growth in terms of its tax implications and such.
Right, in land
I-
preservation.
I don't know if there's a timber harvesting tree growth plan for the property.
Okay, and there's no, it says right now the remaining acreage is not proposed for development. And there's-
Correct.
Is there plans to just leave it alone? Or are you gonna try to get it in tree growth or cleared, or is it gonna be something that will get sold off later? or-
That I don't know, because
That's a substantial amount of land.
It
With a
is,
big
yeah.
question mark on it. so.
Yeah, right now, we're just focused on the solar project. And again, it's John Mancini from Ameresco. Right now, we're just focused on the solar project. And we don't have any other plans for the rest of the acreage right now.
Question on solar panels. Where are they made?
There's some made in the U.S.
Can we have all of
these-
them made in the U.S.?
I'm sorry?
Can we have them all made in the U.S.? I mean, it's a,
They were here originally.
Yeah.
But these panels that we some of the panels that we purchased, they're from Hanwha, which has a facility down in Georgia or Jacksonville, Florida. But they are U.S. made, or they're U.S. assembled, I would say. So it depends, but it's not many manufacturers in the U.S.
well, I know. I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get there from here.
No, I know. Yeah, it would be a lot easier if it was.
Okay.
But there are starting to have more panel manufacturers moving to the U.S.
Yeah.
I think Canadian Solar opened one up in the Midwest. These panels, Hanwha, I think it's Jacksonville. I think it's out of Jacksonville, Florida. They built a big facility there. So,
Okay. And it's an assembly plant.
I don't know exactly what they do, but I know they get at least assembled there. And some of the components may be from there. But I think the components come from all over the world.
Bangor Natural Gas, have you been in touch with them? Where are they at with this project? Are they aware of it? Is there any impacts on their pipeline that would parallel the CMP path?
I think the only impact we could have on them is if our interconnection line had to cross over their gas line. And I'm not sure if the Ameresco folks have had any conversations with them or not.
No, we
Because it
haven't
does-
had any. This is Rob Jackson, Van Rasco. We, we're currently, as Mark mentioned, we're coordinating with CMP on 5 different options for interconnection route. And one of the options would be potentially crossing that Bangor easement, which runs along the transmission line for CMP.
West side.
But there are 4 other options. We're still coordinating with CMP on which one they're going to accept. And we should have that feedback in the next few weeks or so. But in the event that they want us to cross their transmission easement and we would have to cross the gas line, then we would definitely talk to them to get us.
So you haven't talked to them yet?
Not yet, no.
That would
And
be
more or less, the CMP would be speaking with them. It's in their easement right now.
Okay.
that would be aerial at that point or underground?
Easier for you?
We
Yes.
probably have to help sort of,
Underground.
Right.
the proponent.
When you look at the clearances, like for the transmission line, we got certain clearances between the wires, so.
Who's doing the work? Who's the boots on the ground? Who's the excavators, the dump trucks? Who's all that? Is it something that you're gonna go up to bid for, or?
I suspect they would go to bid.
Yeah, we would definitely give preference for, local contractors. Any suggestions that the planning board has, would be much appreciated. But, yeah, we don't typically go out to bid until, obviously we have all of our permits. And then 2 is we would go into equipment procurement and get all the equipment. And then once all that is in place, then we would, bid the project out to select contractors.
How big of a net do you guys usually cast for these kind of projects as far as a mile radius goes? You guys usually go 20 miles, 50 miles?
Usually really local. If we can find like an excavation company that would do all the civil work.
Yeah.
Some of the specialty work is a little more challenging to find locally. So as you might have seen, there are some out-of-state companies coming in to do some of the electrical.
I saw that.
But we would do, we would hire as much local labor as we could possibly do as part of this, and mandate that as part of the bid as well.
And that's an 18-month project, so there could be a lot of different companies involved and
Definitely.
all over the place probably.
I think the actual construction is probably 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
More like, the equipment procurement takes a while. Supply chains are kind of backed up,
Yeah.
at this point.
And you guys have allowed for that in 18 months?
Yes. Yeah, we have warehouse of panels too, so we would select or we would supplement and procure panels that way, or whatever's best for the market and for the project, and we would procure at that time, make some supply decisions once we go out to bid.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And what we're seeing in the market right now is enough of these projects are being built that your Sargents, your Grondins, your R.F. Jordans, the Vinings, all the local earthwork contractors are all in this space and are looking at these projects. So it's pretty hard to beat locally too, compared to out-of-state workers.
Yeah, I think I messed up on the math. If I said it was an 18-month process, it's really more like about a 10-month process. So I was sitting here doing the math, and I messed up on that. So if they start May of '22, be finished in operational February of '23, so we're looking at about 10 months.
And we don't plan to have our, all of our current, that site law amendment that Mark had mentioned is probably going to be a 3 to 6 month process, so that would account for a lot of that 18-month timeframe that Mark had mentioned.
Yeah, if you include all the permitting, yeah, I might be pushing that.
Okay.
So that was my mistake.
So 10 to 18 months. Who knows in today's world?
Yeah.
Sure.
The fire department, are you guys planning on, you touched on that and had a pretty good plan outlined. Are you guys planning on doing some sort of once it's done and completed, some sort of open house tour?
Absolutely.
Like this is what we're going to do if something goes south?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and a ribbon cutting.
Excellent. Well, that's good.
With a barbecue.
Yeah. Yeah.
You okay with that?
Yeah,
Lobster rolls.
Yeah.
So my next question for you is, I saw the Penobscot Nation, you did a couple of letters to the folks there.
Right, it's part of the consultation with, for cultural resources. So typically a consultation letter to Maine Historic Commission and then the 5 tribes.
And then you have in here value of the scenic value,
Right.
okay? And so my question is, on the observatory tower, did you send a letter out to those folks asking for their opinion? I mean-
You mean like the DOT?
Well,
MDOT?
yeah, they're going to be up there, people are going to be looking, it looks like you might be able to see that project.
They might, yeah.
And so I'm just wondering what their feelings or thoughts would be on that.
No, we didn't provide anything relating to the bridge, if that's what you mean.
I'm just looking at your letter on scenic value.
Right, right. We followed through on the DEP. They have essentially a checklist that we went through that evaluates scenic resources in the area and the types of visibility that might be expected.
Would this be reflecting
So-
back at anyone looking down on it?
Well,
Because I believe they're pointing in that direction.
they would be pointing south, exactly. And typically, the panels are supposed to absorb light as opposed to reflecting it back, because obviously they have kind of a dark surface. So the expectation is that they would not create glare So if a person were in the tower there, however many miles that is away, that they wouldn't be seeing glare like if you were looking at glass or mirror or something like that. It's exactly
The
the
tower's
opposite.
pretty close, I think, if you're looking down. We have such a pretty town to begin with.
Yeah, exactly,
you
yeah.
know.
So they're absorbers, not radiators.
Absorbers, exactly, yeah, or reflectors.
And there'd be nothing there that would reflect?
You know,
I like the head nodding back there.
well, certainly,
I can say no, this is John Mancini again from
Yeah.
Emirates. We've installed at airports, and that's been a big, the FAA does do a review to make sure that pilots don't get any reflection.
Good point.
So we've installed at the Portland Airport, Logan Airport, Minnesota Airport, South Minnesota Airport or something. So, and there's other big installations that we haven't done. I think Indianapolis has a really big one right alongside their runways coming in. So, it's a great question about glare, but I think pilots would have, the FAA would be able to look at it too. It's one of the requirements that we have from our financing is to make sure we go through an FAA inquiry. So,
I'm not really sure how visible this is going to be from the tower and the
Neither am
bridge,
I.
because there's a pretty good amount of topography on the Prospect side between the bridge and the project. So, that's just my thoughts.
And the project will be surrounded by, trees, there's an existing basically visual buffer around the site. We would maintain that. There is some clearing, but it wouldn't, around the perimeter, basically those trees would remain. As you can see right there.
So just a partial line of sight between the observation tower and the site.
I never hear anybody in the tower say they can see the landfill or complain about that.
No.
And I've only been up there once, and I don't remember seeing the landfill. I'm not saying you can't, maybe I wasn't looking for it, but I don't remember seeing it.
Neither was I. I was looking at Cadillac.
I've looked there many times, but I guess I've never really specifically looked for
Well,
it.
there you go. If you don't like it, turn around.
There you go.
That's
You
what
could
we're
look in
gonna-
any
that's what
direction.
we're gonna do. Yeah. Under the, in the back of the packet that we got, under wetlands, page 2, under the section of methods, it said that the field investigators conducted a desktop analysis, and it listed all the forms of mapping that they used. It looked like different databases and things, but no one actually did a boots on the ground analysis
Oh,
of any of them.
we actually did, yeah, exactly, yeah. Usually when we do a wetland delineation, we gather up any of what would be the remote data
Yep.
and put that together so we have a sense of what we're getting into. And then we had 2 folks on the ground for 2 days to do the wetlands work, as well as look for, as we were talking before, rare plants and vernal pools and
And that's what those
stuff like
photos
that.
were that were in there are.
Exactly.
Those are today's photos.
Those are from
Recent.
August,
Yeah.
yeah, mid-August,
Yeah. those are
exactly.
recent, yeah. All right. So we're not going off of Google Maps.
We are not, no, sir, absolutely not. Every one of the wetland were walked and looked at and soil probed and such, so.
When all is said and done, how many local people would be able to work in the maintenance and are you going to plan on using local people for?
Certainly during the operation maintenance, you're gonna need to have folks to go out there and mow the site.
We'd hire local folks to snowplow the road as well. I'm sure there's an existing contractor who does that on the landfill property. We would continue with that. And also, the mowing as well, which happens several times a year as well. And there's not a whole lot of maintenance. These things kind of sit and operate. But we do all of our internal O&M. We have an internal O&M management team. And what our O&M management team does is look for local contractors because, we want to provide local jobs, but also it's, most cost efficient to hire folks who are within the community as well. So, in every project that we work with, we hired local folks. And it's not the hundreds of jobs in some other, developments, but that there are some long-term jobs.
Question on this runoff for erosion. Are you familiar with closure turf?
I'm sorry?
Closure turf. I see a lot of solar places that are putting that down to stop erosion. I just looked it up. I have no clue as to really what it does, but I'm seeing a head nod yes this time.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard the turf. We haven't used it. We haven't used it on any of our projects yet. It's sort of new. We've looked at it for a landfill closure to put the turf down, and it makes it a little bit easier to integrate the panels, but we haven't looked into the turf or a traditional ground mount project.
Because it showed that it stops the erosion. Totally stops it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, we just haven't looked into it yet.
That's costly, it costs a lot to.
well, that's,
so.
I imagine it is
Yeah,
cost money, but again, looking it up, going through, it seems to be a trend that some communities are requiring to stop erosion. So I'm just asking the question, because it's going to be there 20, 30 years. Okay, we haven't got to what's going to happen to the panels.
Right.
You know, where are they going to go in 20 years? They haven't gotten to that question yet.
So just going back to the runoff, so, this project will fall under, site law, chapter 100 stormwater management rules, and then also the main construction general permit. So the applicant will be required to, inspect weekly until they have 90% permanent vegetation coverage. And then, they have to do what they have to do to make sure that they meet that requirement to issue their notice of termination, and then they can go to operations. Facility like this will only get mowed twice per year, so it's going to have a dense stand of vegetation that's it's going to kind of manage just like a normal kind of hay field, ungrazed pasture type situation. So really where we would see our, your erosion or your runoff issues would be kind of associated with our road, and that's why we've designed stable ditches with culverts that discharge to, riprap aprons that are adequately sized with level spreaders. So that's where we manage all that. And this site drains actually pretty well right now. It's pretty flat. Everything kind of comes this way down to this wetland and the existing distribution corridor, and then some of it kind of goes that way. So the idea is to maintain sheet flow as much as possible, and then control it with stabilization where we have that concentration.
And you have to have like a 20-degree angle on your build, is that what I understand?
15%, depending on the racking system, is 20 to 15%. Our grading plan is conservatively designed at 15%, so a little shallower than some of the racking systems can handle. But and generally, the site's pretty much within that tolerance. We've got some steeper areas. Out here, it's much steeper. If you've been to the site, but they're just dropping trees to the ground surface outside the fence. No grubbing out there. Inside, clearing and grubbing, and then just localized grading.
Okay. And I see here, not to take up all the time, gentlemen, Penobscot Narrow Solar LLC. After this gets all approved, that's what it's going to become, I guess, from what I understand legally. All right, does that mean you sell it at some point? Where are you going with that?
No, as we're a very large corporation, publicly traded, and our investors like long-term revenue as well. So our preference is to hold projects and own and operate them. We do everything in-house. I know you hear that probably a lot from a lot of folks, but we're a very large company. We're fully integrated. We have our own origination, development, construction, and O&M team, and our model is based on operating assets for the entire term.
Right, so the LLC is a breakoff from Ameresco, and I'm probably saying the name wrong, and I don't mean to.
Ameresco.
Thank you. And that means there's officers involved in that corporation, or that LLC, excuse me.
Yeah, it's a wholly owned subsidiary to Ameresco.
Right, but not a DBA.
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand who's going to, if something happens, obviously you're breaking it off so that risk factors go lower.
That's correct.
Okay, so I understand what it is. I'm just trying to understand where it goes.
Right. It would stay with us at Ameresco.
Okay, thank you.
think I'm
I
out
have
of
no
sticky
question.
notes, if that helps.
Hmm?
Said I think I'm out of sticky notes, if that helps.
Okay.
Ask as
burning
many
there for a
questions
while.
as you have. Fine, that's what we're here
Well,
for.
I still didn't hear what was gonna happen after 20 or 25 years on these panels. Because the wind turbines, we see we're burying those, so,
Wow, really?
yeah. Yeah, the propellers, the wings, whatever you wanna call it, on the pinwheels.
Blades.
The blades, thank you, the blades. Hey, I'm not, I don't wanna see one of those in our neighborhood right now. So, but I see they're burying them because of the materials they're made of, they can't, there's nothing they can do except bury them. So you can look that one up, that's easy enough to find. It took me all of maybe 10 seconds to find that. But again, the lifespan of the panels is about 25 years, on average, or 20, I don't know, somewhere in there. And what are we doing with those at the end? Where are they going?
Probably a bit longer. I mean, a lot of solar panels have operated in, around the world for, up to 60 or 70 years. I still see solar panels on rooftops that were, from the 70s that are still operating.
Sure.
Sure, you've seen that all over the place. There's a lot more opportunities for recycling of panels these days. We just haven't gotten to the point where we've operated, we're getting close actually, to operating an asset for long enough where we would decommission. But we also, I think we anticipate that we probably, since we're going to be owning the land and we'll be here as a long-term business owner within the town, that we would operate beyond a 20-year period. And once the panels, once they're probably a new technology, we could swap those out, and operate for longer. But the panels themselves could operate, 50, 60, 70 years and beyond.
I won't care in that time period.
I will. I'll do it for you.
There you go.
What about the road? You don't have any, the road to gain access to your property, you don't know, is that still owned by E?
There's a
We have,
utility easement, access easement associated with the property.
Yeah.
All right, I see that little,
That'd be transferable.
I see that little peninsula that still goes down that touches Route 15. You got a little bit of road frontage there, just a little bit of a backup plan in case you gotta get there.
We do,
Yeah.
over by Silver Lake, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Just so you can if you have to.
Yes.
Anything else?
None.
All right, moving on with new business, do we need a decision on this?
You want to do an actual review?
Yeah, do you want to do we can do, you want to do a full review on it? You have one?
If you guys think we're ready. In my opinion, they are, but that's up to you.
Yeah, I think we are. I most certainly think we are. It's very well.
Yeah, I'm a little hung up on the Bangor natural gas piece, but that's nothing that's worth delaying anything over in my mind. I'd like some follow-up with that.
Wasn't that lot adjacent? It's not even
Just touch base.
on the lot?
No, it's part of the CMP project of one of 5 routes that hasn't been determined yet, so it's a big question mark. So, that's just something you can.
Be great to have a follow-up on that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I don't have a printout.
Yep, I gave you one.
Oh, you did? Oh, you did, wonderful.
I hope I did.
Okay, so we're going to perform a level 2 review on the site. We've already performed the introductory presentation. All general questions have been answered from the board. There also is a point here where we can have the public comment on the application if there should be any interest from any public present to comment on this particular application that we're speaking of specifically here and now. Any interest? from the public.
Hi, my name is Stephen St. Peter Jr. I own EV/solar for Bucksport, Maine. I asked several of my members if they would like to see a solar farm in Bucksport, and about 246 people were enthusiastic. You can definitely see that Ellsworth, Bodenham, Augusta, Portland, everywhere is going to go solar in the next 5 years. I think that this would be great. How much carbon would you be able to capture with this solar farm anyway?
Well, the electricity would be equivalent to generating power for about 800 homes, I guess.
Okay.
620, I think, is what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, 620, yeah.
Well, I think that this would be a fantastic deal. Everybody's going solar. I mean, I've seen a lot of interest on my Facebook group for solar and electric vehicles. I think this would be a fantastic fit for the town of Bucksport. And Ellsworth just started work on their solar farm. So if we can get this started, I think that'd be fantastic. Thank you for your
Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the review. Environmental standards. Are soils suitable for land use?
According to the report, they are.
Yeah. Stormwater runoff from the land is minimized for the greatest practical extent and adequately managed to reduce the risk of relevant detrimental effects. Soil that may be exposed during any soil disturbance activity of the land use is adequately protected from unreasonable erosion and sedimentation. Surface and subsurface waters are adequately protected from the detrimental effects of any water pollutant from the land use. 5, ambient air temperature environment is adequately protected from the detrimental effects of any air pollutant from the land use. Significant wildlife habitat and other habitat is, as identified in the Bucksport Comprehensive Plan as adopted, are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effect of the land use. Vegetation within any applicable shoreland district is protected from excessive cutting or removal. And is a site visit documentation necessary to verify compliance with any of the environment objective? And the findings of the Bucksport Planning Board are, is there clear and convincing evidence in the record to support the conclusion that the above applicable environmental standards have been met?
I would make a motion that they have been met.
I would second.
Vote to approve. Vote moves. Unanimous. Special area standards, which includes areas of prehistorical and historical importance, vistas of scenic value, areas of public access to water bodies, wetlands, and other areas developed with commercial fisheries and maritime activities. Areas of flood hazard need to be adequately protected from any detrimental effect of the land use. Areas with unique natural character identified in the Bucksport Comp Plan as adopted are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effect of the land use. And is there a site documentation required to verify compliance with any of the special areas objective? Is there clear and convincing evidence in the record that's been provided to support the conclusion that the above applicable special areas objectives have been met?
Motion that the objectives have been met.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Move to approve. The motion moves with the, with no site visit required. Should note as well. All right, moving on to local area standards. The scale and the site features of the land are consistent with the development patterns in this local area or neighborhood. The land use is appropriately separated and shielded from the abutting land uses and public or private ways to adequately mitigate relevant detrimental effect. Any relevant detrimental effects from electromagnetic fields from the land use are adequately mitigated in the design. Any relevant detrimental effects of artificial lighting from the land use are adequately mitigated in the site design. Any relevant detrimental effects of noise from the land use are adequately mitigated. Any relevant detrimental effects from nuisance odors from the land use are adequately mitigated. The solar gain utilized by active or passive solar energy collective systems that may be impacted by the land use is adequately protected. That's an interesting one. In this regard, any relevant detrimental effects of smoke and dust from the land use are adequately mitigated. Any relevant detrimental effects of subterranean vibration from the land use are adequately mitigated. And documentation to verify compliance with any local area objectives and special conditions to ensure compliance with any local area's objectives. And the findings of the Bucksport Planning Board, is there any clear and convincing evidence in the record to support the conclusion that the above applicable local area objectives have been met?
Motion that objectives have been met.
Second.
Vote to approve. It is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Public safety standards. Public safety standards that must be met, except as noted. The quantity and quality of public and private drinking water supplies are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use. The safety and sufficiency of energy supply services are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use. Public safety services are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use. Public wastewater facilities are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use. The proper management of solid waste is adequately protected from any relevant effects of the land use. The safety and sufficiency of streets and sidewalks, getting a very dry mouth here, are adequately protected from the relevant detrimental effects of the land use. Site visit documentation to verify compliance with any public safety objective this is probably not applicable in this case.
Not sure if any of that's applicable.
I don't know that any of it really is applicable. It's worth noting that.
Until 20 years from now.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, well,
until 20 or 50 years from now, that's
But you'll be around.
I'll be right here.
yes, you'll be around. But we're talking about now. The findings of the Bucksport Planning Board are on this topic. Is there clear and convincing evidence in the record to support the conclusion that the above applicable public safety objectives have been met?
Motion that objectives have been met.
I vote to second.
Second it. I didn't hear a second.
I vote to second.
He's happy.
Yeah, I was waiting for him.
Second.
Oh, he seconded. I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, he did.
Okay, yes.
Just trying to decide if we can on that, because we can't look that far into the future, so.
Okay.
See what language says today, present tense, or
Okay.
proposed project.
I don't think they do ask about future aspects of the project, of these projects, really. They're talking about the present. All right, so That passes.
you didn't
Then a
vote.
vote, we need a vote to approve. It is unanimous.
Yes, did you? Okay.
Thank you. You want someone else to take over reading? You gonna make it?
I'm gonna make it, yeah.
Don't believe there's any special use standard.
Yeah, I don't really think, I'm just looking, I don't think there really are any special use standards to go through. What'd you say, George?
I said there's been a lot of stuff that wasn't applicable to this kind of report.
All right.
Doesn't matter. I said yes.
All right, so we're at the point of a decision, I believe, at this point, based on the conclusion of the planning board as documented above and on the previous items we have agreed to. The proposed land use will not have any impact that is contrary to the purposes of Appendix K land use, and therefore the application is approved.
You good?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Work stuff is well prepared, it makes it easy.
Yes.
All right, moving on to new business, a pre-application for a subdivision, proposed 11-unit apartment complex located at 14 Bagley Avenue to be known as the Timberlands Building, or is it already known as the Timberlands?
Formerly known as the
Oh,
Timberlands.
formerly known, okay.
And I have your drawings too, just give me a second, I'll pull them up. Well, unless you've got new stuff.
I was gonna ask if there are any new drawings.
Oh,
The ones that we picked up,
those are the most recent ones I had, so unless there's something new. Was there something you were looking for that we didn't have, or?
well, all the stuff that Keith said is on the drawings, I couldn't find any of it.
Which, oh, Amoresco?
No, mine.
Oh, these folks. Oh.
What's missing?
I don't think that you have paper drawings of everything that was submitted, but there are,
C2 is a bundle.
there was digital files of all the drawings, and I have a roll.
Good evening. My name's Keith Ewing. I'm from Plymouth Engineering. I'm here representing Chris Pepin in the process of trying to purchase this property, and he'd like to put in an 11-unit apartment.
Site plans or building plans? I'll bring up the site plan for now.
On the site, it's an existing facility. The second page has additional parking that we were going to put on so that we can access the second and third floor, and then additional parking on the back, reusing the existing parking that's there.
Back here. So this was the building that all the forestry folks from the mill used for offices. So it's full of desks and stacks and stacks, unless you guys have cleaned it out, stacks and stacks of drawings of the mill and of land all over the state that they owned, because at one time they owned an enormous amount of land. So this whole thing is an office building. It's a sprinklered building. It's a well-built building. It just needs some reconfiguration for what they want to do. I have done a preliminary review. I couldn't do a final meeting tonight because I have to have a public hearing, because this is considered a subdivision. and I didn't have enough time to advertise it in the paper the required two times with enough days' notice to make that work. I have sent the information to the fire department and all the other department heads. The fire department is still reviewing it, but I can't imagine they're going to have too much concern, being that it's sprinklered. But
That's good.
and then the wastewater treatment plant said that there's no concern there on the waste side. The water side said that they need to increase, and I sent you that. You
They
got
want
that
to
right?
take the 1
They want
1/4
it to go up
inch
to 2 inch.
water to a 2 inch.
Yeah. They don't think there's enough water pressure to handle 11 units with just 1 inch or 1.5, whatever it is now.
So what was the increase? There was something in there about going from, they wanted to be 23 sinks and 12 toilets or something?
Right. All there is now is some bathrooms for the office workers. There's no showers. There's
So
There's
it's
no-
gonna- it's going to be a dramatic increase then.
For the plumbing, yes.
for the plumbing. Yeah.
I don't remember what the
Yeah.
numbers were. But, yeah.
I think that's it for my part of it. So we can't have a final vote tonight, but we can ask all the questions we have. If there's anything that you guys want to see that you haven't seen, we can ask him for that tonight. And if you have any questions or have any waiver requests or anything like that for us, you can do that tonight.
Have any of the property abutters been approached yet?
I did send out notifications to abutters
Mm-hmm.
about tonight's meeting, and I have not received any calls.
Okay.
And the only
And
comments that I
Are you
have
here as an
heard,
abutter?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so we have an abutter here. Sorry, Keith, I didn't mean to cut you off.
the only abutter that I've heard anything about is the church, and the client is negotiating with them to use overflow parking.
I see.
Mr. Corwin, did you want to talk to us about anything?
I'd like to see the plan. If that's
Yep. All the documentation and drawings are also all on the website, the town's website. So if you want to look at it more when you're home or whatnot, you can find it all on there.
There we go, right there. You have 12 toilets and 23 sinks, is what you're going to be after, I guess.
What was your name?
Max Corwin, CORWIN. You go back to the satellite view on the right house.
How many units total will it support?
11.
11.
Oh, right here?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. I honestly did think I would get, I always say this, I thought I'd get a lot of questions and stuff from the letters I sent out. And you
I
got,
would've-
you got the letter.
I would have
Yes?
expected.
Yeah, I got the letter,
because
my
they're
neighbors got the
single-family
letter.
Okay.
Um,
I thought for sure that even if they weren't upset about it, that they would have questions.
I guess I have some questions. What are we going to do about, because there is a sidewalk there in front.
Mhm.
Where's the actual, because you're talking about paving the front?
We're going to add 5 parking spaces to the front. The
This is the,
sidewalk
so there's your
continues right
sidewalk right
across.
there. So the sidewalk stays, I mean, they'll obviously have to change it a little bit right here, but it still continues across that parking area.
Are you going to be close enough to tie into the LNG? Or are you going to have, what are you going to have?
The building's already,
Oh, the building's already connected to LNG? Yes. What's like the average size of the
it
apartment?
varies. We have a 3-bedroom apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, and then 4 economies down in the basement.
Okay.
There are floor plans
Keep going.
if you keep going. Yeah.
There's one unit that's 2 level, right?
Yeah, that
Yes.
was interesting.
There's an existing staircase that
Right.
we're just going to reuse to
Yep.
make it a 2-level apartment.
Yeah, I thought it made sense. It's a good use of the space that you've got, you know.
I thought it was an apartment building years ago anyway.
Yeah, no.
That's a good sized apartment.
If I had
Yeah.
a whole lot of extra time, I would go in there and look at those drawings, because I bet there's some cool stuff to be found in there.
The drawings seem to have disappeared, because they weren't there when I was there, but the furniture's still there.
AIM must have come in and taken them.
What's the average rent going to be?
That's beyond my scope of work.
Might be nice to know. What kind
It's
of
gonna
folks are going to be
va-
going in there?
It's going to vary depending on which apartment.
Is there anything sectioned off, like specifically, like, you want this much for section 8 or this much for?
Nope. This is a private entity, so there's none set aside for that.
So this won't be quote-unquote low-income housing. This will be fairly nice.
There is some talk of trying to use the 4 economy units on the basement for student housing if the fire training center gets
For
going.
the Maine Maritime, yeah.
Maybe that'd be excellent.
Yep. Okay. Are they looking for any information from us or variance waiver requests?
He would like to get it going as soon as possible, but we all know that. So,
I was hoping to do a full review tonight, but I
understand.
couldn't.
I got your email.
But
Any other questions? George, what?
I went through the drawings, and I walk by that building every day, and I think, geez, that's an awful small building for 11 units. I'm curious, what would the square footage be of these apartments? It seems to me that it's,
The entire building
it's a lot bigger than you
was
think.
6700
6700
square feet.
because it's all broken out.
the building itself is 67?
Yeah.
Yes. And I have, one of those sheets should have the
67,
square footage
86.
on it.
Because from Bagley Avenue, you don't see that whole third level.
No, but you get around on the back side.
Yeah.
No.
And it's not super wide building, but it is very long.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, we have 300 square feet for 4 units, 300 to 400. 600 square feet for like 4 units, and then 705 for one of the upstairs ones. But that's all on A105.
Good for him for getting his foot in the door on this. It's a good,
Oh,
it's good looking for it.
It's going to be a lot of work.
I think it's probably going to take quite a bit of work.
Oh. I think it's going to.
I mean, the building itself has been vacant for so long that, I think it was last winter, they had some problems with the roof.
Mhm.
They had to come in and put new shingles on it. There was a couple of bad leaks, I think, during the winter time.
but the building itself is solid. I mean,
I would bet it, the building is solid.
it's well built. The sprinkler system and stuff is
See,
top
that,
notch.
that to me is a, I don't know, it's a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
With leaning towards, sprinkler systems,
Yeah, that's a big expense that's already there. I mean, they'll have to reconfigure.
it is, and that building really isn't big enough to require a sprinkler system, is it?
Yes,
Well,
it
it
is.
would be
Anything 3 or more apartments
Oh,
requires.
3 or more,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
And it's been empty for 7 years. So,
but heated.
right, I mean, like, do something with it. Somebody-
Oh, yes. I thought you meant like from a maintenance standpoint.
No, like it's
'Cause
done nothing for 7 years.
That can be bad, living in a building for 7 years, but it's been heated and,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any questions. I thought it was pretty good.
Any further questions for Mr. Corrigan?
Would there be a dumpster on site?
Yes.
We had
down.
some of the roof blew off last year.
It'll be over here.
Oh, excellent.
Down back.
Yes.
Okay.
Near the telephone pole.
And you're not going to
Apparently it's not
expand,
gonna
expand the back parking lot, or how much of that is going to be expansion?
Right now, it is expanding 10 feet this way because of turning radiuses to get cars in and out.
Okay.
Is your property directly abut it, Mr. Corwin, or?
I believe
One
around
away.
back.
He's right here.
Okay.
The back side of it does.
All right.
I'm within 100 feet.
Yeah.
That's why I got the letter.
This was Lloyd Burr's house.
Yeah.
I don't know who owns it now.
That's the Grindle.
Grindle.
Owned it from nearby.
Yeah, probably. Around
I can't tell you how many hundred times I've mowed that lawn. And Mr. Burr
Kidding.
was very picky.
No kidding.
Did you put the sign, did you mulch it too? Because he always had the sign saying, keep your pets off the ground.
He was an electrical engineer in the mill for many, many years.
there. So you said Pepin and Warrington is the one that wants to buy this and do this?
He owns
Chris.
He owns it.
He owns the building now?
Yep, and the triangle between the church and the credit union.
Oh, he bought that?
It was all one big thing that Ames sold together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Reason for the parking up front. Why are you doing that?
Two
You don't have
level-
enough in the back to,
2 levels, and I don't have enough in the back.
how's that going to affect snow, as far as snow removal when the trucks go through that intersection? I mean, it's wide open to the road, I believe. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, what's that mean?
I
Means that they're
don't
going
think
to
those
come
parking
in.
spaces are gonna extend clear to the intersection,
Yeah, you can see that.
if I read those
So-
plans right.
Right, so it's just going to drive in, how are you getting to them? Right, straight in?
Straight in.
Yeah, straight in,
Off of Bagwood.
yeah.
So I guess your question would be, does Public Works have an issue with an opening that
Well,
wide?
that's all my question was, where it's going down and having to move that snow around.
Gonna pile it on the neighbor's property.
Well, yeah.
I have not
Technically, I'd go the
received-
other direction, but
Have not
Does that
received
affect
comment
some-
from Jay Lamper yet, so
Well,
I will.
they were in negotiation with the church for additional parking,
Yes, it is.
overflow.
overflow parking,
Well, the church wants access to his overflow.
to his overflow.
Yeah, they want to.
He owns some of the pieces on the backside, too, or
Oh.
parking on the backside.
Okay, so if I could go back to the satellite view?
Yep, hold on one second. He owns some of the stuff back here.
He
Oh,
does.
really?
Mm.
Chris
So-
does, yeah. It goes across, like the lot goes across here, and, you know.
He owns on both sides of that drainage ditch.
So he could
This is
develop
actually
more.
where the water line comes down from Silver Lake.
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
He could develop more.
So
parking.
that green area in the back, that's grass and stuff, at a V shape right there.
This, right
Yeah,
there,
that can't be filled in and,
Yes, it could be. I don't want to,
Yeah.
because I don't want to get into messing with DEP. But also, I don't have any access from down there in this current plan. The basement is separate from the first floor.
Oh, yeah, so you're saying the people in the basement will go park down here, and the people in the second and third floor will park up here.
Upstairs.
Gotcha.
one car per unit, or?
The front is assumed that it would be 1 car per unit, and their second is
I
going to
hate
have
assume
to.
anything, but,
Right.
They're gonna have to
Second,
park
have
down
be
back, but-
and walk up around. So that staircase that's inside now, is you're gonna rip that out and close that off?
The second floor is going to get used, but it's going to be discontinued from the basement because it breaks the basement up too much with all the plumbing,
Yeah,
and
it's a big staircase too, isn't it? If I remember correctly.
it's a good size.
Yeah.
so you could move your parking to the back, but you don't want to.
I don't want to. Public Works may make me, but we'll.
I haven't heard from him yet, and like I said, the fire department, they're still reviewing the plans.
Yep.
The 2 parking spaces that are on Bagley, which should be eliminated with your new parking spaces, who actually owns those parking spaces? I don't
I
believe
would
those are
ass-
town spaces, are they?
They're on his property, but I'm assuming that they are town.
Okay. Technically, I believe they fall within the right-of-way of the town. But I think way back in the day, those 2 spaces were originally built to accommodate people working in Woodlandsville.
I was assuming that they were for that building.
I don't think this tax map is quite right, because it's showing it ending before it gets over to the pavement, but I thought it included a little bit of the pavement over there.
The plan that I saw did include some more of that pavement.
Up here, yeah. Yeah, well, these tax maps aren't always visually completely accurate. The dimensions and stuff you see usually are, but...
Yep. And then this is step one. He'd like to develop lot 88,
Correct. And we've,
unless he sold it.
well, I don't know, but I've had people calling and asking questions and stuff, and really what we need on 88 is a survey that maps out exactly where that water line crosses through, because it comes, the water line comes down behind these buildings and comes down right here, and then somewhere along, right about the bottom of the 88, it cuts through.
It's just green.
I can't
nobody
spend
seems to
any
know-
money on it until he gets through 90.
Yeah. Well, if he sells it, you know, but that's the thing, and Penquist looked at it at one point, but there was no way to get enough parking to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, we can get, I believe we can get 14 units on that
Yeah,
and meet the parking
Penquist wanted like
requirement.
40. There was just no way to get the parking.
That's a lot.
Right, yeah.
You ready for some questions?
Yes, I am.
Look at page 4 and 5. There's just several places that you say civil drawings, and I don't see the information that you say is there, and that's why I was asking if it was going to be updated.
Yeah, I'll
Plans.
update it. Like
for
everybody, I have beginners that don't know.
And like the last one, it says topography shown as contour lines. Says see the drawings, but they aren't there. There's no.
Contour lines are on there.
Hmm?
Contour lines are on there.
What is it, just one?
There's a whole pack?
In the back, there was another map in the back of the book.
Well, wait a minute, let me look at my point, maybe I overlooked them.
Yeah, your plan doesn't have it for some reason.
That's why I was asking if it was updated plan. I mean,
Oh, you know what?
there's nothing on this one that I got.
Is that stamped?
Yep.
It is.
I don't know if everybody else
have
got
a
it.
conversation with Taylor when I get back and say, check your plots.
I don't know.
It looks like she lost all kinds of stuff.
There wasn't any. everything, yeah, these pages that said was on here wasn't on here that I could find. And I said, we're trending better than that. That was good.
Yes, they are there. Don't read these.
We'll blame Luke. Did anybody get that information on that plan?
No, because when she made the print, it probably didn't print.
That later.
Right. And I looked at the whole packet that I gave her, and that was right. So somebody should have one copy.
Well, I've got 2 big rolls of drawings in my office.
So when you come back for the real review.
Well, maybe I don't. Maybe those are camera skills.
There's probably. Yeah. No,
That would be good.
Very good. Anything else? Any guidance for the next meeting?
Bring
Other
some,
than bring the information.
bring some food.
Yeah,
Bring some food.
I'd say
Okay.
get highway to take a look at whatever's going on.
dietary
See what
recommendations.
will or won't have to do with any of the DEP or anything to do with the highway parking.
Oh, it's the stream that's on that backside that it's
Yeah.
not really a stream, but
That you don't want to get into.
right.
Yeah, I get that.
I did send it to Jay and haven't heard back,
Yeah.
but I will try and get an answer out of him and see if
Well, he's probably
fine.
saying the same thing George is saying is, where's the contours?
Maybe.
People are gonna put their cars somewhere in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
on the road.
I guess my thinking is he okay with that curb cut being that wide? Does he have an issue with it?
Yeah, that's.
It seems fine to me, but he might have an issue. I don't know.
The
I don't
state-
plow.
That
So
will, yeah, well, that definitely will widen up that street right there. It's, yeah.
Because there's a retaining wall along there. So I wouldn't be able to get the parking. You're talking
Drops off in elevation.
You're talking here.
No, I'm talking like right,
You want me to go to satellite?
like right here.
Right, that's the same spot. You only
I
have
mean,
enough
there's a tree
room.
right there, but.
You have room for 3 parking spaces, and it's all uphill.
Yeah, that is a slope, steep slope right there.
And this is not. Must be an old picture.
Oh, probably. It's whatever Google Earth has.
Of course, I'd like to see the parking in the back, but that's just me.
But if you put it in the back,
Yeah?
there's no access stairs or anything for the people up there, so they have to walk all the way up around.
Money,
And-
guys, money. You know how much pavement is to put pavement on that other side?
There you
That's
go,
not bad.
yeah.
If you're gonna do something with it, you gotta turn a profit. That would take a lot of money away from that project.
Well, we haven't figured out what the rent is yet.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
There you
got
go.
that number.
Yeah. Just 11 times 1,000, just figure
Rent.
that out.
Rent's
Just
gonna go
going
up.
with-
Yeah, I mean,
Parking lot.
11,000 a month is pretty.
Do you have any other questions or concerns, or?
I'm just concerned about the front parking lot, just as an aesthetic, but that's,
Yeah.
that's
That's,
just the neighborhood.
that's my thinking too, the aesthetic. Fight it, you know, in my mind, I fight those things until you can't fight it anymore. Because you gotta ask the question. That's all, just work it through. You work it
Apartments are a
through.
little small.
Yeah.
But
You just
They'll
work
get
it
small-
You
They'll
can
get
fill 'em-
smaller if all the parking's in the back and you gotta reconfigure stairwells, right?
Mhm.
So,
Or less of them, which makes it less financially viable.
right,
Yeah.
Which means it goes back on the market.
right.
Any parking on Bagley Avenue right in front of that building?
There's parking spots right there.
There's 2 spaces.
You can probably do, you can squeeze 3, no problem. It'd be parallel parking in the town of Bucksport, it'd be chaos, but.
I think the bill actually built those spaces many years ago for employees and leads.
In the last 7 years, I've never seen a car in them.
No.
Just the gentleman who lives on the corner there, he parks his truck.
Yeah, Harold,
Yeah, a dog black on his last name now, yeah, he's, usually he parks the company truck he drives there.
Okay.
Any further questions for our guest, Mr. Corwin?
Of the parking garage on the front side of the building.
I tried to talk him into a parking garage under the next 88, and the numbers don't work. I'd have to have 37 apartments in order to justify
Wow.
Go up.
Our first high rise.
making a change on
Look
the
different.
height.
Have a good view.
Yeah.
What's the limit on building heights in Bucksport? How many stories?
50 feet without a variance.
It's only 5 stories,
No, it's 4.
4 stories.
If they hadn't just put more.
There's no limit on how deep you
can have a good street to go up there.
Yeah, how deep can you go?
Yeah. All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to administrative business. There is none.
You need a new secretary, Kate.
No, that's a junior engineer.
None in administrative business. Number 9, discussion. Any discussion? Bickering? Whimpering? No?
No.
None? Seeing none?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Adjourned.
That's right.
We have to vote on that, actually.
An hour and a half.